here are the Hunger Games movies ranked. So I have now finished up the Hunger Games franchise. I've reviewed all 4 movies until I think there's like a 5th one coming out in November or something. If so, I think I heard that. I think I saw that online. So if there is a 5th movie coming out, I'll review that and I'll have to do an updated ranking. But for now, we have 4 movies. So let's get started. At number 4, the weakest, easily the worst movie, my least fun experience, the least engaged I was with the movie, the worst Hunger Games movie, has got to be Mockingjay Part 1. This was a book series, and they split the 3rd book into 2 parts, and it's exactly like the Deathly Hallows thing with Harry Potter, where all the boring stuff and exposition is in the first movie, all the payoff is in the second movie. So, there were 2 positives for this movie. It sets up the final movie well, and it gets most of the exposition out of the way. I think I said it gets all of it during my review. That is until I reviewed and rewatched Mockingjay Part 2. It gets most of the exposition out of the way so that we can get on to the action in the second movie. And for an action moment in this, I actually like the bombing on the town and hospital. And Katniss shoots a plane down. That was actually pretty cool. But there are way more negatives on the movie than positives. The movie is very slow. It's slow and boring. I really miss Peeta and his dynamic with Katniss, because those two were really interesting, and he's only used for, like, propaganda for the Capitol, like, hey, Katniss sucks, and that's all he's used for in the movie, and like, that's boring. And the movie doesn't ramp up until, like, the last 20 minutes of the film, so it's like, there's not really any standout sequences in the movie. And this movie just cuts off very hard, where it's like, okay, that's very unsatisfying, and that almost makes me not want to watch Mockingjay Part 2. It's like, I'd rather just skip over this one. Like, if I was to binge watch this, I'd watch 1, 2, and then go straight to 4. Because I don't really miss anything in this movie. So, Mockingjay Part 1, easily the worst movie, easily the worst experience I've had in this franchise. Number 3 is The Hunger Games. I would say this is definitely better than Mockingjay Part 1, but I mean, like, I just don't really like it that much. The world is fleshed out in the movie, so I like that, and it sets up everything well. I like the scene where Katniss dodges fireballs. The moment of when Katniss shoots the apple, I love that moment. Like, I love that moment. That's one of my favorite moments in the franchise. And it's just so awesome. And the final fight is pretty engaging at the end of the movie. But this movie, there's a lot of things that I still do not like about it. For whatever reason, the movie seemed to have, like, shaky cam in the beginning of the movie. So it seemed like a lot of Blair Witch projects, so it's like you can't even tell what is even going on. Don't even know if you could tell what's going on, but it was like that. It wasn't that shaky of what I just did, but, like, for whatever reason, it kind of felt a little shaky. And I wish the Hunger Games, the actual Hunger Games, was like an obstacle course race. Instead of just a death match. Just like, we're gonna kill people, that's about it. It's just a pure survival thing. And that's kind of boring to watch. And it would have been way more engaging for an obstacle course. And this movie kind of goes along with that. It loses my engagement after the actual Hunger Games starts. It kind of slows down then. And I don't really have a good time with that. I actually kind of really do like the exposition. The first hour is actually really good. It's the second half of the movie when we're in the Hunger Games where it actually kind of feels like it slows down. So, the Hunger Games, I mean, it's a decent movie. Like, it's watchable, but it's just not really a movie I'm looking forward to rewatching. Number 2, now these two movies are actually pretty good. These would be, like, more positive reviews. And number 2 has got to be Mockingjay Part 2. The Flood Bowl scene is really engaging with the ooze chasing them, and the whole bowl traps them in. I really like that scene. The creepy humanoid chase thing, is the most horror-centric scene in the franchise, so I actually kind of like that. Like, it's not just action. It's not just a dramatic, sad scene. Like, that's actually kind of scary within this franchise. It's creepy, engaging, and actiony. I kind of like it. The shootout on the floor and the floor breaking is really tense, and the ending of the movie I think is pretty satisfying, with President Snow being killed. It's a pretty good way to end the franchise. There's a few negatives, like the movie is kind of slow for the first 50 minutes, and it's like you get an engaging scene and then a boring scene, and it just keeps flip-flopping. And the movie can get pretty long. And small other negative is, like, it's kind of confusing what the humanoid creature things are. I don't know if they're monsters or if they're humans. Like, that was just a little weird, even though I do like that scene. So not much negative to say about it. I actually do kind of like this one. But my number one favorite Hunger Games movie has got to be Catching Fire. When I first watched this, I thought it was not good, and I did not like it. It would be at number 3. After rewatch, I actually really like it. I don't like it that the Hunger Games don't start right away, and I wish there was a climax to the film, and they should have used the contestants in more fights, like the girl with the sharp teeth. Like, that would have been cool to have in, but they just don't have those characters in that much of the film. I would have wanted them to, like, be used in fights and combats, but they're not really in the movie that much. Other than that, the battle between Katniss and Peeta versus President Snow, it just goes back and forth, where Hunger Games brings people back now, and then Katniss defies people, and Peeta announces they're having a baby to try and stop the Hunger Games. So it was just so interesting. Eventually, they unfortunately have to go into the Hunger Games and compete again, but like, I just really liked that. The arena, that's a clock thing, I like that aspect. And every hour a new threat comes, and they're like kind of stuck in that little section of the arena. The mini water battle when the Hunger Games finally starts, that's actually really good, where they're running to try and get the supplies. The fog chase is interesting with the poisonous fog, and the creatures attacking them, I really like that. So this is kind of what I really did want from the Hunger Games. Like, this, while not 100% being exactly what I wanted, but this is much more of, like, them trying to survive obstacles, like the fog chase, like in the mini water battle, kind of. But you still get that deathmatch type thing. So you get that deathmatch type thing, like the Hunger Games, but it's exactly kind of to a degree of what I wanted, where it's like, now you actually have some obstacles. You have the creatures, you have the fog, you have special locations. So Catching Fire comes out as my number 1 favorite Hunger Games movie. Thanks for watching.